To meet the challenges of our booming urban spaces, citizens around the world are increasingly being told that their cities need to become smart. Smart city is a catch-all buzzword to describe how technology can be integrated into cities to make them supposedly more efficient, more green, and more safe. But the smart city approach is also radically changing the metropolis in ways that make citizens more watched and trackable than ever before. You can see that transformation in two cities that have labeled themselves smart. Hyderabad in India, one of the most surveilled places on the planet, and Hong Kong.
The Hong Kong government launched what is called the Smart City Project, and they are actually aiming to be a world-class smart city. And what it means is you see more and more surveillance cameras in Hong Kong. Only this year, the government has installed 2,000 more around the city. And as you're traveling around, you see something called the smart lamppost, and you don't really know what it's for. It proclaims itself to be for monitoring air quality. But in fact, people always wonder, oh, is that actually also for facial recognition? So the Smart City initiative allows the Hong Kong government to digitize your life such that your life leaves behind trails and trails of documentation of how you live, where you live, what you do, and who you hang out with.
Hyderabad in India, in the state of Telangana, is one of Modi's 100 smart cities. What we see there is the digitization of education and healthcare services, automated monitoring of traffic, so seemingly benign aspects like that. But in addition to that, we have the integrated command and control center, whereby policing and data collection will be centralized. They're trying to invisibilize the policing infrastructure and embed it into the city. And so you've got thousands of cameras. That is sold to the public as a public safety measure. And historically, it's a Muslim-dominated city. And that's an interesting historical context to think about, given the Hindu nationalist Modi government and the kind of long history of the surveillance and persecution of Muslims in the city. The central promise of the smart city, despite its kind of techno-utopian visions, it's actually about managing disorder and chaos, managing certain populations who are deemed kind of a threat.
In Hyderabad and Hong Kong, the smart city narrative has obscured the far-reaching ways the state collects information about its citizens. At their heart, that's what smart cities are about, collecting huge swathes of data to automate how a city is governed. How is that data collected? We unwittingly give it away when we use our phones, get into a car, or tap a smart card to get on the metro. The integration of sophisticated cameras and sensors lets city managers do everything from monitoring traffic patterns to recording a person's movement around a city. It's a vision that is driven by technological solutions and the tech companies that provide them.
Smart city is really a marketing term for a package of surveillance, right? The way you get a smart city is you buy some technology that lets you do surveillance, and then theoretically you make some smart decisions based on that data. We don't have a lot of data that supports that it makes cities better. We do know what it does is it gives the city a lot of data that they didn't previously have. Cities have been feeling like competitive with corporations because they start to feel like, oh my God, Google, Facebook know more about the people in my city and what they want and what they need than we do. And so ultimately there's a bit of a tension there where cities want what the corporations have and then they go out and seek to buy it.
Tech giants have been telling us that the smart city is the solution to this crisis of populations growing in urban centres. We're going to need to figure out, how do we do housing? How do we feed ourselves? What are going to be our solutions to climate change, for instance? And so the vision of the techno-utopian smart city is saying technology can solve all of that for you. What is not part of their purported vision is actually this more sinister side, which is that tech corporations and their partners are using the smart city model to actually consolidate their power and their control over the city and over our lives as well.
As more power is ceded to multinational companies offering to remake our cities, it becomes harder to scrutinize how our data is being collected and to what end. Experience shows that those companies are often motivated not by public good, but by a desire to exploit the data they collect for profit.
So for instance, corporations such as MasterCard, they are interested in extracting data as it relates to digital ID systems.
With actionable data insights, we enable the public sector to make informed policy decisions.
So they partner with Edemia, a French biometrics firm, and they provide solutions into smart cities everywhere and are also extracting vast quantities of data that can then intersect with state data collection.
Our advanced biometric and cryptographic technologies are behind a lot of things you already know and trust. We think about them so you don't have to.
We've seen how undocumented migrants who might use some of these MasterCard solutions, that can reveal someone's status to the Department of Homeland Security, for instance. So we can see how these things intersect and interplay, and often these interests of data extraction are aligned.
The Silicon Valley billionaires seem to be moving towards building their own systems of surveillance and their own smart cities. Some of the leading tech moguls have actually started their own efforts to build cities in California, allegedly to solve the housing crisis.
Eastern Solano County, where a new community can rise.
But they want to build them in this sort of smart city tech utopia way that the surveillance will be built in from the beginning.
A community that is well thought out and well laid out.
Like a company town on steroids. The worst of what we saw when companies built towns for their laborers, and then the laborers were sort of trapped in these ecosystems and had to buy from the company store. At least in a company town of the old days, you could go into your house and complain about the boss, right? That won't be possible in these new smart cities. And I really worry about that becoming some sort of model where the only way we can get what we need, which is new housing, is to agree to those terms.
More than half of the world's rapidly growing population now live in cities, a figure the UN says will rise to nearly 70% by 2050. There is a need to make cities smarter and better equipped at dealing with the challenges of the future. But there is nothing utopian about a vision centered on increased surveillance and maximizing data extraction, especially when in the hands of authoritarian governments. Because pervasive surveillance, the feeling of being constantly watched, has a chilling effect. Rather than make us safer, smart cities may become spaces that feel more unsettling and less secure.
When these technology are used ethically, and also when they're used responsibly, I don't doubt that they can contribute to bettering people's lives. But at the same time, when the government or people behind this infrastructure has a record of human rights abuses, then we have to be very careful about how this technology is being used, because they are collecting a large amount of data that can help them do very evil things very effectively.
The way that smart cities are shaping up and the way that surveillance technologies and all these technologies are being deployed, it's actually going to impact on who the city is for, who belongs to the city and who doesn't belong to the city. And so in that sense, it impacts on all of our fundamental rights. And especially with the rise of authoritarianism, our ability to push back and shape the city in the ways that we want to are going to be suppressed. And so that's something that, we should all care about dearly.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are in the description, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for updates from the show.